Kia ora everyone, my name's Zach. I love rugby. Welcome back to Hakatime Rugby. 2 weeks, 2 emphatic big wins for the All Blacks, but so many talking points that sit just below the surface. I'm going to cover off and just give you my reaction to the overall game, what I thought about it, and where I think there are some real selection headaches for this squad going into the quarterfinals. Firstly, let's start with Uruguay. I thought they put on a fantastic performance that first 20 minutes, and they've been a spirited team that have pushed a couple of teams really close. Obviously, keeping France to a points differential that was exactly the same as the All Blacks, or are very close to. So, Uruguay have come in with great spirit, great passion. I've really enjoyed their play. Very disruptive around the breakdown, and we saw that in the first 20 minutes here. An All Blacks coach, Ian Foster, said after the match that they were expecting a real challenge at the breakdown, and there were a number of turnovers gained by Uruguay throughout that first 20 minutes and later in the match. And I thought just generally in terms of the breakdown work and the physicality, they went really, really well. It's great to see some of these teams having success against the bigger teams. That is what the World Cup is all about. A lot of people will complain about the competitiveness of these games, but the All Blacks can only play what's in front of them, and they've done the business here, and they move now and look forward to the quarters. A couple of big talking points. Obviously, the performance of Damian McKenzie, outstanding. Fainga'anuku, I thought he was menacing with the ball in hand. He was looking for work. He was attacking in and around the ruck. And that's what I want to really see from the All Blacks, is a lot more of that sort of coordinated attack through the middle, because I think that's where they can have success against teams like Ireland or the Springboks as they look forward to the quarterfinals. But Fainga'anuku had a fantastic game. And we also saw from Richie Mo'unga as well as Damian McKenzie a bit of a dual playmaker type responsibilities. We have seen that obviously with Beauden Barrett when he's typically there at 15. But I just felt, when you look at the playmaking ability for Damian McKenzie, he's just really composed. He's fantastic with the ball in hand. And obviously that fantastic pass he just threw, that tap back for Will Jordan's try, which will go down as one of the tries of the tournament, I feel. It was just such a great moment. He chased his own kick. He had to dive sort of over the touchline. Some people will say was his foot out. Now, they did check that, so the try was awarded. But what a fantastic, spectacular try there for Damian McKenzie. Now, he's got to be really knocking on the door here of Richie Mo'unga. And a lot of people have started commenting around whether you do look at someone like Damian McKenzie in the bigger games. So, what I'll do is, towards the end of the video, I'll cover this a bit more in terms of that battle between those two and where I see the best opportunity for the All Blacks to succeed, who is probably better placed to lead this team. But right now, some other big talking points from the game. 150th game for Sam Whitelock. He actually looked a bit more refreshed in this game. So perhaps, the reduced minutes and now playing a bigger role in this game. Obviously, there's been big breaks between the various games up until this point. He looked a lot more refreshed for me in this, a bit of a higher work rate, I thought, which was really, really good to see. Luke Jacobson had his opportunity here. I thought he had a mixed game, so it's going to be interesting, the selections of the loose forward trio. We also had Ethan Blackadder come out and get his opportunity here. Another player that had mixed games. And, I'm focusing a little bit more on the loose forwards because the replacement loose forward options off the bench is still a wide open selection headache for the All Blacks. So really looking for someone to step up and stamp their mark. I don't think either of these two players have done that. So then you're in that dilemma between Dalton Papali'i and these two on who should ultimately get that reserve loose forward option off the bench. So let's see how that plays out during the week. I would have to say on that balance of that performance, Papali'i probably still retains that option off the bench there. Other talking points. I thought Gaston Mieres, the winger there, 34-year-old winger, he had a fantastic game. He had that great little break around the outside of Fainga'anuku, so he was able to catch him off guard, get around the outside, get a nice little break. It was unfortunate they couldn't finish that attacking raid, but he had a really, really good game, so congratulations to him. And as I mentioned, I think at the end of it, Uruguay can be proud of their tournament overall. They have pushed a number of teams really, really close. There's some successes that they can take here and look forward to the future with and hopefully build around, because we really want to see these teams getting stronger, getting better, and getting a lot more involved in these games in a more competitive way. So fantastic work from Uruguay. Great performance. I've really enjoyed watching you guys, and hopefully we can see improvements there in the future. Now, back to the conversation of Richie Mo'unga versus Damian McKenzie. real selection headaches. And I think rather than look at this as who's the better player, McKenzie versus Mo'unga, which I know there's a lot of discussion around that, it's better to look at, treat this as a selection headache. So these are good problems to have. You've got two players that are playing, well. You've got two players that provide very different skill sets. And it's really a conversation for Fozzie now to look at, well, what's the ideal tool for the match that's needed at the quarterfinals likely against Ireland, but could also be against South Africa. So those are the decisions now that are in play in terms of who you go with. And if we just look at some of the stats here, Richie Mo'unga did come off at a period there where Beauden Barrett replaced him. We expect the running meters there from Damian McKenzie. You can see 105 running meters versus 37. And obviously he has a lot more bandwidth to attack from fullback. So that's an expected outcome, I guess. In terms of the points, not a lot to split there. Damian McKenzie, I thought his goal kicking was actually fantastic. He had two kicks, one on the right side of the field, on the touchline. Got that. The next kick was on the left side touchline, and he got that. So, accuracy stakes. Richard Mo'unga did miss a couple. I thought Damian McKenzie looked really accurate with the conversion. So, he's not going to let you down if it comes down to it in terms of penalties, conversions, and where you need to accumulate your points. And as we know, that's a really important factor in the bigger games. The ability to score points, accumulate points, and build scoreboard pressure is going to be really important. So you'd probably give Damian McKenzie the slight edge there in terms of his attacking ability, his ability to kick, and his ability to set up tries. The other thing that I really enjoy from McKenzie's perspective, he just seems to have so much composure and time on his hands. So Richard Mo'unga did have an error here. You can see that is a handling error. He did look rushed a couple of times when the pressure was on in that first 20 minutes. Whereas I just get the sense Damian McKenzie he just seems to be one of these players that has a little bit of extra time. And you're going to need that against the rush defense and the better team. So on balance, where do I see these two slotting in to the quarterfinal picture, and who should they ultimately select? There's been a significant investment in Richie Mo'unga. He has been here in terms of the World Cups and obviously has played in quarterfinals and semifinals before. So obviously he is the starting first five, and that cohesion that has been built there is something the All Blacks are really going to need. But where I think there's an opportunity with Damian McKenzie is to think a little bit more about when you interject him. I would actually like to see him play more minutes and possibly come on as a replacement for Richie Mo'unga. We're probably going to see this kind of strategy with the Springboks with Andre Pollard, for example. They're probably going to interject him at a point where he can ice the game. I think Damian McKenzie can do that, but with more minutes. If anyone remembers famously in the 2015 World Cup final, Steve Hansen made a big switch of bringing on Sonny Bill Williams at halftime. Now, I think it's probably a bit too early for a Damian McKenzie, but bringing him on around the 50-minute mark to really change the picture you're presenting to the opposition, rather than leave it too late, that sort of 20-minute period, 15-minute period towards the end of the game, I'd like to see him get a lot more minutes off the bench in the big games. Namely because we know he's composed, we know the attacking threat with a tiring defense, and also just changing that picture up for the opposition and providing additional shots, additional tools, I think could be a really dangerous weapon. So that's how I would elect to choose and utilize Damian McKenzie and Richie Mo'unga. And then obviously you've got Beauden Barrett there as well. But that's food for thought for Fozzie and the selection panel. That's my thoughts on the game, guys. Now we look forward to a quarterfinal. And the quarterfinal is going to be absolutely massive, irrespective of who gets through. I'm going to be previewing on the lead up to that match, so please stick with Hakatime Rugby. If you like this content as well, guys, feel free to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to start ramping up my content now as we get into the business end of the tournament, and would be great to have you guys here as well. Hit like on the video as well if you've enjoyed it, guys. Okay, I'll leave it there for now, and I'll talk to you all soon. See ya.